Hi folks, you're with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about an interview I did with a local in Australia, a local political candidate. So someone standing for public political office is out on the streets, meeting and greeting and doing town halls and things like that. So they claim to be an independent. Now they're rather vague on their policies. They're talking in broad sort of, we want to help people. We want to make the lives of Australians better. Things like just broad stuff that means nothing. So so I was just going a couple of suburbs on, and I was going into a store, and they were out the front doing a sort of a meet and greet and handing out brochures and pressing the flesh and all that sort of stuff. So I watched it for a moment, and I noticed that they were targeting people with green hair and purple hair and blue hair and people, also people that look down. I mean, they seem to latch on to an old man in quite bad health who had hardly any teeth left, and they seemed to want to spend a lot of time. So they were being very selective in who they went after. You either have to be a radical activist, the blue-haired college kid, or you have to be an old toothless guy type thing, or woman. But so I watched this for a little bit. Then I thought, well, I'll go up and just ask. Now, clearly from the look, and I didn't realise, so I thought it was someone working on the campaign. But then I realised that the photograph on the brochure, which was a very flattering photograph, by the way, the photograph, there was this woman that I was actually talking to. So she's the candidate. She's the candidate for political office, which I hadn't realised straight away. So now she's about 5'2", 5'3", quite slightly built, and is a former. She may still be doing it. But the impression I got was a former primary school teacher. So she was teaching up to 10 or 11-year-old kids, and she's a member of the teachers' trade union. Now, it turns out, it doesn't take long to check on these things. It turns out she's a union organizer, which she doesn't disclose. So she's actually up to her ass in leftist, globalist politics there, but doesn't disclose that. So now this did come out. So I conducted an interview. Now, I recorded some of it. Now, given I didn't have her permission, and my view is that I could do a hit piece on it if I wanted, but in my view, it's the voters' decision that whether she goes anywhere from here, not mine or my politics superimposed on the situation. The voters will decide. And I'm very firm in that belief. I may not agree with the voters' decision, by the way, but it's still the voters' decision. I don't like the way she misrepresents herself and misrepresents what her policies and her source of funding are. I think that's a problem. But it's up to the media to expose that, or indeed her political opponents, if that's the if that information is available and can be put into the public domain. It's not my job, as I see it. Now, I mentioned this to someone else, and they queries, well, it is your job. You're a citizen journalist. No, I'm not comfortable with that. It is the voters' decision, and it must be the voters. It should be, and should always be the voters' decision. Will she get in? No idea, but nonetheless. So let's just have a dive into this. So now she doesn't know I'm a political sort of guy, and nor did I disclose it in any way. So I was just asking, what are your policies on this, and looking as dumb as I possibly could in order to get her to talk. Because if she thinks the question's loaded or I'm recording it or something, then she'll clam up, which she eventually did anyway, by the way. Now she's got quite she's this, again, this small, slightly built woman who is morally superior to everybody. I mean, if you've been teaching 5-year-olds at school, that makes you a morally superior person. And so she's what are the big issues? The biggest of the big issues, is it the cost of living? Is it the fact that people can't afford to pay their mortgage or pay their rent or put food on the table? No, that's not the issue. Well, what about mass migration? It's reducing, making the infrastructure, and and you can't get to hospital, you can't get to see a doctor. Is that no? That's not the issue. Nazis would say that. Is it that children are being given ideological education at school instead of action? No, that's not the issue. What about all the race and gender hustling in society? No, that's not the no. Standard of living, quality of life, well, they're not issues. What's the big issues? Well, climate change. Climate change is the biggest issue. Now, she happens to be standing for office in an electoral district that has one of the highest densities and ratios of trees to concrete, if you like. So there are places all over Australia that have got far more concrete and far fewer trees. But she happens to be seeking political office in an area that has one of the highest concentrations of trees. So she starts off climate change. Climate change refugees by the gazillion have to come. We have to let them come into Australia because it's only Marxist justice. She didn't use the word Marxist, by the way, but the style of her language and delivery was heavily influenced by Marxist thought. I don't know if she even knows it because she's not very bright. So she's saying climate change. Then she says that the area is a heat sink island because of the concrete it has. Now, again, it's got the lowest ratio of concrete to trees and flora in Australia, in any sort of wider city area anyway. So I said that there are a lot of trees in the area. Oh, yes, but there are places where there aren't trees. Well, of course there are. Yeah, duh. So she says this is a heat sink, a concrete heat sink, and it's damaging, it's dangerous, it's the end of the universe, and we have to do something about it. So, okay, well, what would you do about it? Oh, well, we have to have policies. No, well, I'm sure. What policies? You're standing for political office. I didn't speak this directly to her, by the way, but you're standing for political office. What policies? Is no concrete allowed? Is no, should all houses be made of grass or stuff? What are your policies? You're claiming that there are areas of such high levels of concrete intensity that they're forming, unique heat sinks, which are hugely relevant to climate change. You want to alleviate or limit or reduce that problem as you see it. What are your policies to do it? She had nothing. She didn't know. In fact, I don't think she even understands. She's just simply spouting lines she's been given. I don't think she even got the slightest comprehension. Now, she's just one of these wild-eyed climate change chicks that just mouths the slogans but has no idea or comprehension. So anyway, that's number one. So and remember that is the biggest issue bar none, according to her. Now, she claims to be an absolutely independent candidate for political office, but again, when you're a trade union activist, trade union organizer for one of the most activist unions in the country, if not the most activist union in the country, then how can you say you're independent? You can't. So there needs to be disclosure there, in my view. And if you go onto the Teachers Union website, it's very consistent, if not exactly the same as her views, which are the same as the United Nations proclamations, which are the same as the World Economic Forum. So she's 100% on board with the globalist project. That's all she's pushing, in fact. Every area of policy that she purports to indicate as an important area or the most, they're all the globalist policies. None of it would be someone who's independently thought out the issues. And given that people's struggles at the moment to do with things like paying off mortgage and food, putting rent, putting food on the table, all that sort of stuff, then you'd think that would be her priority, because that's the people are hurting on these issues. But no. So what's the next issue? Like in order of priority, Well, the LGBTQ community in the area, they don't have enough infrastructure. They don't have enough things. We have to, not, the people want it. We have to make sure that the LGBT community has proper respect and is protected and is protected from hate speech. And well, okay, what does all this mean? Do you have a definition for hate speech? Do you have a definition for protected? Do you have a definition for how will these policies make their lives better or improve? And why should these improvements be at the expense of others? If you want to improve everyone's life, including LGBT, well, that's fine. What's wrong with that? But if you specifically want to just protect this group and give benefits to just this group, and the other group is forced to pay for it, how is that a step forward at all? The straight people must atone for their evil sins. They're all Nazis, neo-Nazis. Okay, where are these neo-Nazis? Do they have a political party? Are they represented somewhere? Is there an office where they congregate? I mean, where are these neo-Nazis? Oh, they just anyone who's a straight white male. And why? And then she looks at me and tries to bait me and says, "Well, are you against Nazis, or are you for the Nazis?" Yeah, right. I'm really falling for that one. So I said, "All right, then. Well, yeah." And then she had some other nonsense, like there should be a refuge for women to escape violence from men. Studies have shown. Well, studies what? By lesbian gender studies academics that declared, have declared their hatred for the family and the straight white family. I mean, is it them? What research are you? And she can't say. So anyway, those are the big issues as far as she's concerned, or she claims to be. So I said, look, you've got all these brochures you're handing out. You've got all these workers working on your behalf. Talking to people and handing out. These aren't just flunkies off the street. These are skilled political operatives. They know what to say. They know how to put the patter together. They're enthusiastic and dedicated, and really getting into it. These are trained political hustler operatives. Where do you get those from? Who's paying for it? Who's paying for the motor vehicle with all the painting and the slogans, everything on it? Who's paying for all the brochures? I mean, these town hall type things you're doing, who's paying for that? Or are they being given to you for free? And if so, who's indirectly paying for it? You had a town hall meeting over the other side of town a few days ago, and you must have had half a dozen plus political operatives there handing out stuff like why who's paying? This is an expense. This is not something that a primary school, a low IQ flunky primary school teacher could afford. This is a sophisticated type campaign. This takes money. This takes organisation. This is beyond her capacity. So she doesn't like the question, you can tell, and she gets quite defensive, if not sort of almost looks scared that someone's getting, someone's over the target, if you will. And so she claims that she tries to go girly and say, you're oppressing me by these questions. No, you're standing for public office, public political office. The taxpayer will be paying your salary, your public office, and any member or any citizen has the right to ask you, what are your policies and where is your funding coming from? It is a perfectly legitimate question. Don't try that. I'm just a little girly and you're threatening. Don't try that. It's not going to work here with me. So she just, I don't want to talk to you anymore, and just walks off. So now a little bit of internet thing. She's getting supported by there's an NGO supporting her and a teachers union, or a branch of the teachers union, I guess, as far as I can tell. Or it would appear. I haven't got categorical smoking gun evidence on this. It would appear. So she's being funded by globalist forces, maybe is the best way to describe it, and to push the globalist agenda and to push globalist policies, such as making sure there's race gender hustling in the area, all this sort of stuff. Climate change is front and centre, and she wants climate change hit squads to go throughout the schools. I mean, they're already doing that. So again, this is a tie-in back to the teachers' unions. She wants taxpayer-funded hit squads to go throughout the schools, telling everyone about climate change Armageddon and this sort of thing, with the full support, of course, of the education establishment. So what we're talking about here is just a pawn for radical activist, anti-Western, pro-globalist forces, and they're putting her up as an independent. She's not an independent, and there should be, if someone's going to stand for political office, there should be full and open declaration of where the money's coming from and who's really controlling things, and that's not happening here. And but it just goes to illustrate how easy it is for moneyed interests, in this case the globalist interest, to stick their stooges into all levels of government, and to do so really without much scrutiny. You've been fantastic today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.